Okay. It is 2:30, and I'm sure we'll have a couple people trickling in, but just to respect everyone's time, let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot of information, and we also want to get we want to hear from you. We want to get, see what your questions are, hear some of your feedback and some of your ideas that you come up with. So let's just go ahead and get started. My name is Sally Potter, and I am the distance education coordinator here at Fresno City College. I'm also the OER coordinator, and then I also teach EMLS and linguistics classes. And my partner in distance education and in this workshop is Sue Yang. She is our instructional designer for the college. I'm going to start off and give you a little bit of an overview, and then Sue's going to dig into some of the more technical things. We do want to mention that I was kind of scanning through the participants. I didn't see any, but if your name does not appear in Zoom as your first name and your last name, please change it. So go into the by your name and then right click, and then you should be able to open it up and rename yourself. And that's just so we can give you credit for attending. We also want to mention that we do have the chat. And while I'm talking, Sue is going to keep an eye on the chat, and then vice versa. However, sometimes when we have a large number of participants, the chat can start moving really quickly, and there's a possibility that we might miss a question or two. So what we're going to ask you is, if you have a question for us, to use the Q&A. And so you might see it along the bottom of your or the top of your toolbar. Mine is over here on the bottom, and that is going to open up a separate area for questions. That way we can make sure that we get all of your questions. And then, feel free to use the chat, though, to kind of, add some comments, give your ideas, and, kind of engage with your colleagues here. Okay. Okay. So what we have for today, what our goal is today, is to really talk about RSI, regular and substantive interaction. I spoke a little bit about it during our opening day on Wednesday. So if you saw that, you probably have a pretty good overview of what it is, but we're going to get into a little more details today, especially talking about the importance, and then really what it is. What we're going to focus on today is you creating a communication plan for your students. So this is something that you would eventually, ideally share with your students, and then follow this plan going forward throughout the semester on how you communicate with them and how you interact with them. We're going to talk about meaningful feedback. So what exactly is meaningful feedback? And then especially really exciting is Sue is going to show us some ways that we can implement RSI using Canvas, kind of the, some kind of like tools and tricks in Canvas. And then we're also going to, if we have time, we're going to do a self-check with an interaction plan. Okay. So why do we have to do RSI? And again, I covered this slightly, but I do want to emphasize that regular and substantive interaction is essential, it's necessary, it is required by state and federal law for distance education courses. So our college is accredited to offer distance education courses. That means that we have to be doing RSI in our courses. Okay, it's not an option. And so this is what differentiates distance education from correspondence courses. Correspondence courses are where there are modules that are up, they're self-paced, the student can just move along through them. There's no teacher or facilitator there to kind of respond to them. They just work through them themselves. And then they, supposedly learn the content in the modules, but we are not accredited for those type of courses. So we have to be doing RSI. And really, there's a lot of research that shows that students are going to do better with when there's RSI that's being done in the course. This is the way that you show students that you are a person, you are a live person. There is a person that is there that is really running their course. They're not just working with the computer. This is a way that you are creating a kind of a community of learners. So the students, just like when they are in a face-to-face class, they feel like they're part of a group. These RSI practices are a way to get students to feel that. And so they just really respond. It's motivating, and lots of studies, like we said, show that students do better. And then, of course, it's the law, but of course, the reason why we're focusing on it now is because of accreditation. Okay, so this is something that has come up recently, and we're in the middle of our accreditation cycle. Okay, so the ACCJC visiting team visited Fresno City College in the spring, and they reviewed courses from the previous semester. So they reviewed courses from fall 2026. As VP Almazri mentioned on Wednesday, the minimum standard for our accrediting body, ACCJC, is that our college has 85%, at least a minimum of 85% of the online courses that we teach that have an adequate amount of RSI. We did not meet that standard. So they're giving us another chance after we've had some time to get the word out, do some training, and provide evidence that we are in fact attempting to reach all of our faculty so that our faculty know what to do. So again, spring 2026, that's not a long time from now. That's just next semester. Those are the courses that are going to be looked at for kind of our second chance. So we really want to make sure that everyone knows about this, everyone hears about this. We really want to encourage you and stress that as much as you can, when you have colleagues, and this could be your full-time colleagues, your part-time colleagues, any of your colleagues in your department, in your division, whenever you are talking with colleagues who also teach online courses, have this conversation. Okay, just keep reminding each other, just keep talking about ways that you're doing RSI. Okay.
Oh, Sally, I was there's a question in the Q&A from Richard. I was um typing a response, but maybe we could answer it
Okay.
live.
Okay.
His question was just to confirm RSI is for online classes and not hybrid.
Okay, yes, great question. And I mentioned this on Wednesday. So anytime there is a distance education, a part of a class is offered through distance education, we are supposed to be doing RSI. Now, when you have a hybrid course, you are meeting your students face to face in the classroom for at least some portion of that class. And so if you meet with them once a week, and you're talking to them live in person, that in itself is RSI. So that counts as RSI. So then for ACCJC, they are not going to review any hybrid courses. Okay, so you know, and hybrid couldn't. This is kind of a little bit complicated because hybrid could mean a lot of things, right? Hybrid could mean that the whole entire course is taught online, and then you have the students come in during the finals week, so it's like 1% of the course is offered face to face. in that case, then definitely you should be doing regular RSI throughout the course during the online portion. But if that's not the case, if you're meeting them face to face once a week and then the rest of it is online, then your face to face meetings count as RSI. Okay, does that answer that question?
This is Rick. Yes.
Yeah.
Our hybrids are, we meet in person 3 days. The very first day, 4 weeks in, and then the last week.
Okay.
So they
Yeah.
need to have,
Yes. So the idea is that this is regular, and regular usually means every week, So I would say that for your courses, it is the law that you should be doing these practices each week. Yeah.
so at least 2 substantiated interactions per week.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, just confirming that. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Sue.
Yep. All right. Okay, so again, this, for those of you who may have joined us in spring, again, just reminding us about the policies and what we have here at City College. So again, in 2021, there was changes to the federal regulations that clarified what regular and substantive interaction was in distance education courses. I'm pasting in the chat just in case you don't have a copy of the Fresno City College approved RSI policy through Academic Senate. Uh, please save and download that. We're using that as guidance in our trainings and also in sort of supporting you to implement and integrate RSI into your courses. And so please take a look at that if you are not familiar with it. So again, distance education and RSI, going back to why RSI, the main difference between distance education and correspondence courses is the RSI. So if a course does not pass the RSI test, then it's assumed that it is a correspondence course. And we are not accredited to offer correspondence courses, and we don't receive any funding for them. This would also hurt our allocation of financial aid funds that we receive, which would hurt, the financial aid that our students receive. And so again, that's another reason why, we want to make sure that our DE courses have RSI present in them. So there are 2 components of RSI. That the interactions are substantive and that the substantive interactions occur regularly. So in the updated regulations, substantive interactions was defined that it must include at least 2 of the following methods below that. So again, providing direct instruction, assessing or providing feedback on a student's coursework, providing information or responding to questions about the content of a course, facilitating a group discussion regarding the content or other instructional activities approved by the institution's accrediting agency, which is ACCJC. Last spring, the state community chancellor's office, as well as ACCJC and all, they did a webinar as well too, and ACCJC said there are no institutions or colleges that have any approved other instructional activities approved, and so really what we're looking at is B, C, and D as our sort of methods for substantive interaction. So the second component is regular interaction, and regular is defined as being predictable and scheduled based on the length of time and the amount of content in the course. In addition, um, the instructor is responsible for monitoring the student's academic engagement and success by promptly and proactively engaging in substantive interaction with the student when needed. Now, in our RSI policy at City College here, there is additional requirements. I believe it's on page 2 of the file there, but there's some guidance there to help you. For example, if you are teaching an 18-week 3-unit course, as Sally had mentioned earlier, really the minimum required weekly interaction is twice a week with 2 different substantive interactions. There's also guidance here for hybrid or other accommodations that are described that are described in your course outline of record or DE addendum. So if you're unsure, you can check with your department chair or check on Curriculum for and look at your course outline of record. If you've been to our other trainings and everything, we've stated this multiple times as well too. I want you to know that most of us are already implementing some element of RSI in our online courses, and we may not even realize it. Um, uh, the definitions that are defined, they're still broad enough for us to include a range of different activities that gives us options for choosing how and when interaction occurs in our courses. I'll turn it over to Sally.
Okay, yeah, this is, yeah, I'm trying to answer another question in the Q&A, but I'll just, yeah, maybe it's just easier to answer them live. So the question is about if you do a Zoom session. So I'm going to assume that you mean like a weekly Zoom session, maybe like a study session, question and answer session. Could be kind of like a virtual office hour, or it could actually be where you are doing like a little mini lecture or something like that for students. And the question is, does that need to be recorded? And the answer is no, it does not necessarily need to be recorded. The way that you would document something like that is that you put it in your syllabus. You say, every Friday at, 1 p.m., I will have a Zoom session on such and such, and here's the link to that. That would be kind of like a minimal amount of documentation. You could also, if you want to really make sure that it's very well documented, is you're doing that, and then every Friday at 12:45, you put an announcement in your class saying, Zoom session just about to start, please join me. Here's the Zoom link. And so that is a great way to document that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, example communication plan. So this, again, this is something that we really briefly talked about on Wednesday. And what, the idea here is that you put something in your syllabus that explicitly spells out how you're going to be communicating, how you're going to be interacting with your students. Now, this is important for the students, of course, so that they know what to expect. But really, it's also really nice for the members of the ACCJC visiting team. They are looking through our DE courses, and they're looking for ways that you are communicating with your students and interacting with your students. So if you have a communication plan, and you just tell them this is what I'm doing this semester, then they know where to look, right? They know what you're doing and they know where to look. So, for example, if you say you're having those online office hours, okay, they can check you off there. If you're telling them that you are going to be giving feedback on not every single assignment, but maybe, you know, the bigger assignments, a certain kind of assignment, you know, every week or every couple weeks, you'll give extensive feedback. Then they don't have to waste their time. They know to look in that assignment, they can find it, and then it's easier for them. If you say that you are going to be in the discussions with the students, and you'll be responding and facilitating those discussions, then that's where they're going to go. They're going to look there. If you're saying that you're going to give, you know, make an announcement every Friday, you know, when you open your next module, for example, and the announcement is going to explain, do a little walkthrough, maybe you even have like a video of the content for the week, then again, they can just really easily, they know where to look. So it is kind of a good idea to do that. And again, we have put um, I want to say, oh yeah, oh, it's coming out. Okay, I won't talk about simple syllabus quite yet. So what we want to kind of you know, challenge you to do and talk to you about right now is making your own kind of communication plan. And you don't have to write, you know, every single thing right now. But you know, thinking about what are the ways, because as Sue mentioned, you know, we know that you're already interacting and communicating with your students. Most likely you're already meeting the standard. But thinking about ways that you can make it explicit. What are some of the things that you would say in a communication plan to your students in your syllabus? Go ahead and we can move to the next one. We're going to do a short breakout group activity where we want you to you know, think about some of those things that you could include in a communication plan and share it with your group. So we're going to put you in groups, and we will have you first quickly introduce yourself. We'll take about, let's try to take about 7 minutes in the group when you're in your groups, and just have everyone take a turn about, you know, one thing that they do to interact, reach out proactively to their students to communicate, some kind of or some kind of a tip or something that you're going to implement this semester. Okay, so let's go ahead and if you want to take a picture of this short little prompt so you know what you're supposed to be doing in the group, that might be a good idea. Okay, I think everyone's back. Yeah, and I know that that wasn't a very long time to talk. So yeah, so thank you so much. I see Edward, your hand is up. Go ahead and
Yeah, Sally, we were talking about in my group because I attended an RSI meeting this before summertime, and I was under the impression through discussions that if you respond to student private emails, that counts as RSI, because a template was sent to our department, and on there it said responding back to student emails. Is that considered RSI?
sure. Okay, so yeah. So a couple things I want to say about that. You know, when you email students, when you reach out to students and you email them or you send them a message in the Canvas inbox, yeah, you are interacting with them. You're definitely communicating with them, especially if it's something that has to do with, you know, your course content, right? An assignment that, you know, clarifying something, giving them some extra information. Yeah. However, here's the problem with that. That cannot be documented within the course. So there's just no, because the courses that they're going to look at are spring 2026, and they're going to be already finished. They're going to be already documented, everything's saved there. And then the ACCJC visiting team only has access to look within the course. They do not have access to your school or personal email. They do not have access to your Canvas inbox. So those are just things that they wouldn't be able to see. Now, this past round, the person who was the lead on reviewing our courses for the visiting team, she told us that she assumes that all instructors do that. All instructors are emailing or sending messages through their Canvas inbox. So she gave us credit for doing that without actually observing it. Okay. I know that's not a very satisfying answer, but here's what I would say. There are times when you might want to send a message to the whole class, for example, or maybe, you know, part of a class, maybe students who didn't, you know, who earned such and such grade, or who, you know, had problems with certain questions on an assessment. Or in an essay, they had certain issues. Rather than going through the Canvas inbox and sending that message, if there's a way for you to do that in an announcement in your course, that is going to be much better for this process. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I actually do that, Sally. What
yeah.
I do is I do like a recap. So I do a Monday, Tuesday-ish recap from previous like discussion boards, etc. And I'll put like common themes.
Yeah.
Oh, just through feedback reflection, I've noticed that we this X, Y, and Z. And then I actually leave the discussion or my announcement opened and not closed for students to reply back to my announcemements. And I noticed like quite a few students will respond back, and I seem to get less private emails when I do more announcements.
Yeah, that's a great tip. That's a great idea. I love that. I also recently started doing weekly recaps after the due dates, and just kind of going through, you know, here are some things that I want to say, you know, about each assignment that was due. And that definitely, yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great idea. I do want to there were some great questions here earlier up in the chat. One of the questions was, yeah, I do a virtual office hour. What if nobody shows up? I just got my Zoom room open. The students know that it's available. Then none of them come in. I'm just sitting there, you know, looking at my phone or doing grading or whatever. It doesn't matter. That counts. That counts. So if you are initiating the opportunity for students to join you, and they know about it, right? It's documented in your syllabus. Maybe you even make an announcement before you open that, then that counts, definitely counts. And then yes, this is what we're mainly talking about are asynchronous online courses. So when you have asynchronous format for your online course, then these are the practices that you need to do to ensure that they're distance education and not correspondence courses. I think the email, I think I answered that. And then there's a real interesting question here. I don't know if I've come across this before, but I want to kind of talk about this a little bit. And then Alicia, I see you, and I'll get to you as soon as I'm finished with this. Um, okay. Is there a sandbox Canvas with some example RSI assignments? So I think that might be a little bit of a not the way that you should be looking at it. So you know, any discussion is gonna be, you know, an RSI assignment. Any assignment that you give where the students have to even write a few words and you can respond back to them within the speed grader, that is an RSI assignment. So I'm sure that you have assignments in your online course where that applies, right? The key is going to be those interactions that you do in those assignments. Okay, so when you're doing a discussion, then the key is you're not just letting the students talk amongst yourselves and you're not really looking at it. The key is getting in there and not responding to every single student. That is just way too much and too overwhelming for us and probably for them too. But to just sprinkle your comments throughout, maybe choosing like every 3 or 4, fifth one. If what I do is if I see a student that hasn't been responded to by their peers, then I will try to respond to them. And getting in there in that way. So I hope that answers that. If not, and yes, some of these practices do take a little bit of time, but what our goal is here is to kind of show you these are effective practices for student learning. Okay, so and it's the law. We need to be doing this, and so if you can focus your time more efficiently on doing some of the RSI practices, and then maybe not so much on some of these other practices that aren't going to get us anywhere in RSI. That's kind of our goal. So you're not spinning your wheels doing all these other things that don't necessarily count for accreditation. Okay. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Okay. Okay. Regular and substantive feedback. So yeah, so AJ, having a section in your syllabus, regular and substantive feedback, you could do that. I wouldn't necessarily throw those terms on my students. I like just like communication plan, communication policy, and using it in a little more student-friendly language. But yeah, definitely. Yes, announcements, they can definitely see the announcements, Nancy. Um, um, yeah, and a discussion like, like a Q&A. Some instructors have like a Q&A discussion, or like a kind of like a cyber cafe discussion that goes through the whole entire semester. That may or may not count, Juanita. You really have to ensure that it's something that is done regularly and weekly. So maybe you're posting, something else in that discussion, or you just have like, every week or every 2 weeks or every new unit that you cover, then you have a new discussion. So something that's regular and that students know when you're going to be doing that. If that makes sense. Okay, discussion board for help. Yeah, so Joellen, so having a discussion, a weekly is a great idea. What I would say is, where they can ask questions, that's a great idea. But in order to make it about the content of your course, you should also put some kind of little, like a frequently asked question, the answer to that. You initiate the content at the beginning and then allow them to answer questions. So maybe some kind of mini teaching that you can do in the beginning of that discussion is going to be great. Yeah, feedback in the speed grader. Yes, of course. They will be able to see the feedback in the speed grader. Yeah, if you're talking, and Patricia, if you're talking about within Studio, I do believe that they would be able to see all of that. Okay, yeah,
It's
Karen.
not, yeah, it's, for example, when they turn in assignments, you know how there's always like a comment box, for the instructor. And
Yeah,
so in
yeah.
that box, I mean, I'll record something to correct their
Yes.
pronunciation or things like that.
Yes, exactly. And Alicia, I realized that I forgot about you. You took your hand down, or someone took your hand down, and then I just went out of my head. So yeah, play pause it or the equivalent. Yeah. So I think what you're talking about is maybe some kind of like video or like interactive thing where the students have to kind of interact with that. And Sue, do you want to take that question? You're muted, Sue.
Yes. There we go. So this one's a tough one as well too, because it has to be, um, it can't be like a video where the students are simply just watching it and there's no connection or nothing else that they do. Even if it, I believe from all of our readings with ACCJC FAQs and looking at other institutions and whatnot, if it's just a video that they have to watch, um, even when there's embedded questions, uh, it does not necessarily count as RSI. Now, if they were to, let's say you put this video in a discussion, okay, here's a video, watch this video, and then now you're gonna post your reflection or answer these 3 questions about it. And then other students would post, they reply to each other, you would post as well too. Now that would be considered RSI. This is with the videos and everything, it's been a gray area for us, and other institutions, even ACCJC has asked the Department of Ed for clarification, but they don't want to get too specific because they want to keep it broad enough so that um, you know, depending on how you teach your courses and everything like that, you can still decide if it would meet RSI or not. So um, I know that probably didn't answer your question.
Yeah, I just have, I
Yeah,
take the easy
it's
ones and give Sue the hard one. Yeah, that is, you know, really, thinking about, this is supposed to replicate, you know, the whole theory behind it is supposed to replicate what we do with our students in a live face-to-face classroom. Okay. So, you know, in a classroom, you're probably not going to just like, okay, my class is from like 10 to 10:50. I'm probably not going to just like turn on a video and then just like, you know, walk out and not pay attention to them. Right. You know, there needs to be some kind of like extra, maybe the video is embedded in a discussion, and then there's a discussion that you have about the video. Maybe you have some, you know, some kind of assignment associated with that, and you are responding to them in the speed grader for their answers. That, you know, those are much more clear cut cases. So yeah. Yeah. So some of them are maybe not necessarily what we want to hear. But it's, and of course it is subjective, right? The reviewers are going to have a subjective take. Okay. Let me move this out of the way. Within simple syllabus, there is now a section that I referred to before, called communication plan, and this is the language that is there. It, you know, really, to make your communication plan, to tell students what you need to tell them in your communication plan, is really being specific about, this is how I'm going to be, you know, interacting with you, contacting you, what the method I'm going to use. I'm going to make an announcement. I'm going to give you feedback in the speed grader. I'm going to message you in the inbox on this specific day, and I'm going to do it week in and week out, so that's regular, so that they know when it's coming. And then beyond that, you also want to, in your communication plan, you know, tell them when they can communicate with you or how they can communicate with you. Best way to reach me is through email, Canvas inbox, that kind of thing. Okay. And then maybe Sue, you can put a link to the page in the virtual hub for faculty. If people want to check out some examples, or I don't know, maybe, yeah, okay, there you go. Okay. Okay, so instructor feedback is supposed to be substantive. So that means that it is about the content of your class. Again, thinking about those elements in your course outline of record, your objectives, your lecture content, that content. You want to try to get the students to do critical thinking with your your comments. So you're writing those kind of facilitating comments, asking them probing questions. The responses are supposed to be personalized, okay? So there is a function within Canvas that some of you may have noticed called the comment library, I think it's called, where you can just copy and click on, or paste and click on comments. That probably is not going to work in most cases, because those are going to need to be pretty generic in order to apply to most students. So my suggestion is to pick out like one single sentence, one single thing that they said in their reply, and then comment on that. Don't try to comment on every single thing that they said, but really, I really like what you said about this. That was really insightful. Did you know that that is called this? And this is how it, we apply that in real life, that type of thing. Facilitating interaction between students in the discussion. So that, kind of thinking about yourself as a facilitator in the discussion, not just a participant. So when you are in there, you're not giving answers, you are having students or asking students questions about, what about this thing? And again, my suggestion is to take like one sentence within the their post or their answer, and kind of expanding on that. If there's something that you can clarify, okay, so if there's something that you can give more information, maybe they didn't say something quite right, or they are kind of hinting at something and you're giving them more information about a concept, that is key right there. And then talking about how some of those things can be applied to real life. Okay. Yeah, all of that. Okay. Next. And then again, the regular is, the default is weekly. Okay. You don't have to respond to every single assignment that you give, week in and week out with extensive feedback. But if you're going to use your SpeedGrader feedback as one of your ways that you do RSI, then it needs to be pretty regular. So usually maybe pick like one assignment per week that you're responding to, or maybe one assignment every unit, something like, so that it's on a regular basis. Okay. And then that will be communicated in your communication plan. Another thing that the ACC-JC rubric focuses on is reaching out to students who are struggling. So, and we can't always see that. They're not going to be able to see, again, your inbox comments or your emails that you send to them. But that's something that you could mention in an announcement, that, if, if a number of you students are struggling with this, or some of you didn't make the deadline on this last essay, so I'm going to be reaching out to you, and that way it's documented within your course, and then you're going to want to mention that in your syllabus. And really, this is really just for student success overall. This has to do with our online classes, our face-to-face classes, everything. Responding to students in a timely manner can make all the difference. So I know it's difficult. I know we're all teaching many classes. We're all overworked, underpaid. We're all overburdened with our coursework, or course load. But trying to, when a student, you see that a student is struggling, you see that a student is having problems, something happened on their last assignment, or they just disappeared, reaching out to them as soon as you possibly can is a really way to, to do these RSI practices, make the students feel that they are valued, and many studies show that it increases student success. Okay, Sue.
Yes, let me continue. All right. So how do we show this in Canvas? There's, as Sally mentioned as well too, and when the crediting team came and had discussions with us, some common areas where RSI can occur, and most likely, the first places that evaluators would look at is again announcements, discussions, and again, many of us already use these, so continue to use them with the clarified methods that are defined in the RSI policies. So announcements, yes, we can highlight, upcoming deadlines, um, but give it some substance. So we can use it to maybe explain, preview, summarize, or clarify content that we notice, some students were struggling with, maybe from the past week. We may want to identify any sticky points or patterns that we noticed from student submissions for assignments that week. We could include information that connects or extends from last week to the activities that we're going to be doing in the upcoming week. And we could add maybe some current news, relevant news, additional resources that could help the students to understand the topic. And so all of this could be communicated and crafted using announcements. You may even want to allow students to respond or add comments as well too. That is a feature that you can enable in announcements, and so have them share. Hey, look out in current news or on social media or anywhere, any news that is related to the topic we're talking about, and have them be able to respond and add their comments to your announcements as well. Canvas rubrics. So if you utilize rubrics for your assignments or your discussions, the evaluators are able to see these as well. And it's a rubrics in general are a good tool to help identify what your expectations are in the student's submission and in their coursework. And so when you are using a rubric, if a student is missing something, you can add additional feedback to explain why the student did not receive the full rating. And so again, when you're using rubrics, there's the little comment box where you can give them that personalized feedback. As a reminder, when you are using rubrics though, for grading, you want to check the box that says use this rubric for assignment grading. If you want the scores to sync back into your grade book. If this box is not checked, the scores will display in the rubric, but they won't automatically be entered into the grade book. And the last time I checked, it doesn't work if the students have already submitted the assignment, and for you to go back and try to edit the rubric and say, yes, use this. So you'd have to manually enter the grades in the grade book for at least for that assignment. So just keep that as a reminder. We also talk about the Canvas speed grader. Yes, this is again where you can provide that personalized feedback for the students, or additional resources that could help the student. And not only for areas where students are struggling, but it's also good to give positive remarks and hey, you did a great job, and really proud of you for keeping up. Positive motivation and comments to let the students know that you do notice their progress or their learning and everything, and that you're encouraging them to continue to participate in the class there. Again, as Sally had mentioned, there is the comment library as well too. If if you want to, you can save some comments there, but then add some more substance to it and make it personal for that individual students. I believe, Patricia, you had said that you had used video comments to respond back to the students. And so again, that's another option that you can use. Or if you want to attach files, you can do that as well in SpeedGrader.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would, highly recommend that you keep your grade book as updated as possible. I know there may be times when you're behind on grading or there's just a lot going on, and so it may not be possible all the time. But really, keeping your grade book updated, it helps the students to monitor their own learning progress, and it also helps you to see who may need a nudge, who may need a message, who may need a positive comment or anything like that. Again, in the grade book, you can, in any of the assignments columns, you can click on the three dots to message students who. And so again, if it's to give timely and personalized feedback, or maybe some guidance or resources for students to understand a concept better or improve their submissions or anything like that, you can do that. Now, when you do,
So, I'm
yeah.
sorry, it's Anita. I have a question on this because I do this. If I just do this to remind students that an assignment is due, that doesn't count as RSI?
Um,
No, yeah, so, as- so comments or announcements that just remind about like a due date or something, like the drop date is coming, or I don't know what else you would say about other than due dates and that type of thing. That is not considered substantive content. Substantive
Okay.
content is the information that is your course content. So so think about what you're teaching them. Yeah.
mhm.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Yeah. So again, you can remind students that they haven't submitted. Maybe you want to provide some feedback for those students who scored below or scored above. Again, motivation or encouragement for the students to stay on track. Really, just helping to prompt them to um, to complete the assignments that and the different activities that you have in your
Just a
course.
quick question. When you use the Canvas gradebook to message a particular student, how do they receive this message? Is it in a form of an email to them?
So when you send a message to a student in Canvas, it goes to their inbox. If they
Oh,
have
from
their,
the gradebook. From the
Yes.
gradebook, if you send a message to a particular student who maybe has not turned in an assignment, then they would see that as a message in inbox. Is that what
Yes.
okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
they'll see it in their inbox, and if they have notifications set to go to their FCC email, they'll also receive that message in their email. But once they log back into Canvas in their inbox, they're gonna see a notification that, oh, there's something in here, I need to check it. And they'll know
And
that they have some
messaging the students would be considered RSI? Or
So I know Sally had mentioned this earlier as well too. It's interaction and it's good for um, uh, checking in on the students and making sure that they're following along in the course. But when ACCJC comes and evaluates your course after it's been taught, they don't see those messages. So that's where you can say, oh, okay, the deadline for this article or this assignment passed, but you saw that most students were struggling with this concept. if you announce it, make it in an announcement. That is something that is visible and shows that, oh, okay, so you are checking on students' progress and how they're doing for an assignment, because you're addressing, that, maybe a third or half of these students miss this concept. So you're sharing additional resources for the students, or you're reteaching that concept in the following week or anything like that. Again, in the grade book, when you select a student's name, there's a grade detail tray that opens up in the side menu. And again, anywhere that you see this sort of mail icon, it gives you an opportunity to just message the student then. Uh, if you just, to close that out, you can just click on any of the cells in the grade book and it'll close that window out for you. So as instructors, we plan and we design our courses for what we think would be best for the best way for the students to learn. And an activity that we designed, which we thought would be well received or would go, would be very interesting. Some students may find boring or not very interesting. And so that's why gathering student feedback throughout the duration of your course is super helpful. Maybe after the first assignment or after a big project or a big test or something at the end of a module, just have a quick survey to see how it went. From the student's perspective, are there any suggestions that they may have for the next assignment or the next big quiz or test or anything like that that they'd like to share with you? And then really just use this feedback to adjust your interactions with the students. They're like, oh, they really like it when they see me respond to students in the discussions, or oh, they like it when I include a recap of all the topics and everything that we went over in a week. And so I'm going to continue to do that then. And again, it's about connecting the content, clarifying topics or information from the course. Um, two different features in Canvas that you can use to get this feedback is doing a practice quiz or an ungraded survey. Now students, they don't receive a grade for either one of these. When you do create a practice quiz, as you add questions though, Canvas automatically adds 1 point for each question, but you can click in that little box and just change it to 0 then. And then so again, it'll just be 0 points for the practice quiz. As for the ungraded survey, if you want anonymous responses, this would be the better feature to use then, to give you that feedback from the students. So again, as we're giving students feedback and helping them improve or stay on task in our course, remind students where they need to go to view your comments or view your rubric or anything like that. And so for them, the students, they would see a notification about their grades, that something's been graded. If when they receive that, they can click on it to go directly into the assignment, which would show them their score. They could view the rubric and everything like that, your comments and everything. Or if they're already in Canvas, they can always click on their grades and it'll list all of your assignments that you have graded so far. And if there are any comments or anything that you have, any feedback you have given to them, that will be indicated by these blue dots next to the assignment. And so again, just reminding students, hey, I've graded your assignments for this week. Make sure you go back and read my feedback as we move on to the next week and whatnot. All right. So take some time, review your instructions, review your announcements, your assignments, the activities you have, and ask yourself, are there regular, meaningful interactions between you and the students? Or is there personalized feedback that you're giving to the students? Are you engaged in the discussions? Or are there areas you feel that you could use some more intentional interaction? This is just an example of how you could do a self-check for your own classes. And this sort of leads up to what we're planning to do this semester around RSI as well too, in our community of practice. But again, this is just something simple you can do. In the virtual hub for faculty, there is a section on interaction plans as well too. So it links to other examples that help you to some other templates that help you to make sure that you're scheduling and building in RSI in your classes. And so in this screenshot here, I mean, you could just list if you're teaching a 9-week, 18-week or whatnot. Okay, so before the course starts, are there any interactions? Are you sending them a welcome message? Are you posting a welcome announcement? What kind of interactions are you doing in week 1? Are you posting another announcement welcoming the students? Are they having to complete an introduction discussion or whatnot? Or get to know me survey or whatnot. You can list those interactions. And then going back to the policies and the definitions of RSI, does this meet RSI? Would it be considered RSI if somebody was taking a look at it? So this is just one example to help you check your own courses. But there are some more examples and templates available in the faculty hub there. Sally, you want to talk about this one, or I can? Or
Yes, I was just trying to answer this
Oh,
last question here.
sure.
So I'll just answer it real quickly. Okay, so does Canvas also notify students via the inbox once I've graded their assignment? No. However, by default, Canvas will send them an email. Okay. Now, here's the problem though. The default setting for students is that they get and all these notifications, all these emails, a lot too much. Okay. What I suggest to my students during the first week of class is that they they go into their notification settings and they turn off everything except 3 things. Announcements. I think it's called comments, so that they can see comments when they're left on the speed grader. And then conversations. Conversations are what happens in the inbox. So that way they're not getting for every single little thing, they're not getting an email, which then they're going to tend to just tune out all of it. Okay, so the community of practice is something that we are planning for this semester. You'll be seeing some emails coming out hopefully in a week or 2. And the idea here is that we want to train many of you, a group of you, to be experts in the ACCJC rubric. Okay, so that's going to be the focus. So we're going to start with looking at your own course. Okay, so looking at a course that you've taught or that you're teaching and doing a self-evaluation. And then, one of the problems with our peer evaluation system setup is that in the contract, When we are evaluating our colleagues' online courses, we are only allowed to look at one single week of what they do in the course, and that just doesn't show if you're doing RSI or not, if you're only looking at one single week. It really has to be something that you can see and you can verify week after week after week they're doing these practices. So the way to get around that is to have a conversation with your colleague. Colleagues that you just are, you're just discussing teaching online, or someone that you're actually doing an evaluation of. And so that is kind of the goal here is what we're going to be focusing on for that. Let's see, Nicholas here. Yeah, so Nicholas, I would definitely suggest that you don't put when you are doing your grading for the discussion, don't also put a comment there. Use a rubric, and then you can just, click, and they should be going, and you can remind them in announcements. And however you're communicating with them, remind them, go back to the discussion, look for my comments, look for your classmates' comments. Just keep reminding them of that. And we have 1 minute left. I know many of you are going to be getting out of here. It's definitely the end of the day, but are there any last questions? Any other questions? I can definitely stay on for a couple more minutes.
And I just want to thank our interpreters as well, Chelsea and Jamie. Thank you for hanging out with us all day too. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. So
See you
someone just
later,
is
Birdie.
emailing me again about the Zoom meetings counting towards RSI. So if you hold a Zoom meeting regularly, so you once per week, for example, if you have a Zoom that your students know about, it's public, it's talked about, published, the link is given, and the day and time, the Zoom link is given, and it's in your syllabus, then that is very clearly does count. Now, I mean, the issue that we have with our district is that our part-time faculty are not paid for that. And so I feel really bad about suggesting doing that. But frankly, it is kind of an easy way to just get it out of the way. I do understand, because it is difficult to know that, like, every Tuesday at 11 a.m. you're going to be sitting at your computer. But yeah, if you can possibly make that happen, it is kind of an easy way to just get one instance done out of the way.
Hi, sorry. Hi, Sally. I heard you addressing this a second ago, but I didn't hear the full answer. I have the same issue where I don't see that students have asked me a question in the speed grader comments. Like I might give them feedback and ask a question, then they might respond with a question and I don't see it. Is there a notification I can turn on to see that?
Yeah. Yeah. So let me show you. Okay, so I'm in Canvas right now. And then when I click this account little tab right here, the top link is notifications.
Okay.
So this is what notifications looks like, and yours might have more turned on than I do, because I purposely turn mine off. So submission comment, having that notify immediately,
Oh, I see. Okay.
green, that's what you want right there.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And then the other one is announcement. And I know when I make an announcement in my classes, but I have this turned on so I can show students. And then added to conversation and conversation message, both of those. And I do not want to get an email. When I send an inbox message to a student, I don't also want to get an email. I get enough emails. So yeah, those are the only ones that I personally that I would recommend.
Thank you.
Sally, what's the difference between added to conversation and conversation message?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think that this is when someone starts a new message, and then this is probably when there's like a reply back to a message or something. I don't know. I have both of them on just in case. So
Okay,
do
thanks.
you know the answer to that? Stop sharing. Okay. You guys, it's 3:53. What are you doing? Go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, have a great
Tired?
weekend.
Aren't you tired?
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great weekend. Have a great start of the semester next week.
Thanks, guys.